Good evening, it's the Midnight Report. Well, 20 minutes after midnight for those of you that are getting up in the morning. We've been up already. And I always thought it was interesting that there was a night watch in the Bible. You know, there was the midnight watch. I think it was midnight till 3 was one of the watches. Anyway, the nature of what is happening now, I want to give you some encouragement. I know you've been through some devastating challenges and processing through what's going on all over the place. But I do believe it's important that we, as the dust settles, we recognize that all the prayer that's gone up over this election was not in vain. I heard something that was kind of interesting from Sidney Jacobs, and I tuck those things away when I hear them. And it was a comment she made during, it was before, maybe it was around after the election. She said, you know, all the prayers have been praying, all the prayers have been going up. It's important to know that God is going to answer those prayers. However, he's going to answer them in the way that he wants to answer them. And I think for many of us, it's going to be an important conversation. While I'm seeing people that are fighting, you know, with the prophets. I don't know why people have to go fight with the prophets. It always strikes me as strange. Maybe those that are holding on right now and saying Donald Trump's going to be president, maybe that doesn't serve a good purpose, in as much as people that are listening to them that aren't really better informed about how this stuff works, maybe that throws them off a little bit. But honestly, the majority of the all the excitement and being upset with prophets is, I think it's just not healthy. I don't think it's legitimately justified. Because, to be honest with you, I think a lot of apostles ought to be asked whether or not they supported this president and whether or not they showed up and fought. Because a whole bunch of them are jumping on, like, there's a weird movement going on where there's almost like a coming out of the closet of all the never-Trumpers and all the people that didn't like Trump and all the people that are never involved with politics saying, you see, this isn't the way we're supposed to do stuff. We're supposed to just make yourself odious when you get involved with this partisan politics. And to be honest, they're really useless in saving America, that point of view, because we've had that philosophy for the last 30 years. Why do you think it is that we've lost? Because we've got 40, 50 million Christians disengaged because their leaders are disengaged. And that's, you know, that's not news to anybody that's involved with this. Most of us are new to this, this battle for the survival of sovereign nations. And even that, I want to tell you right now, that's even taken a hit. A whole bunch of Christians are coming out and challenging patriotism, or, you know, if you believe in your nation. It's really strange. I think there's you know, the left, the spirit behind the left has big tech, has Wall Street, has crushed small businesses, the backbone of America's economic recovery, which, by the way, is the reason why we're heading into troubled waters economically. It's the Democrats have screwed up, and the Republicans also. The government has hurt small businesses, the backbone of our economy. But the business mountain is controlled by the left. Media is controlled by the left. Academia is controlled by the left. Now Washington is controlled by the left, federal government. Hollywood, controlled by the left. The only thing they don't have is the church. And now you're watching a whole lot of pastors and ministers kind of almost doing the talking points for the Democrats. Like they're collapsing without even a confrontation. It's like, yeah, you know, it's like, don't aim at us. It's those fanatics over, those Trump-supporting preachers over there. They're the ones you want to get. Leave me alone. I'm not a threat. I believe whatever you believe. So you're seeing a lot of that. They're not saying it that blatantly, but if you trust me, that's how it's coming across to people that know what they're doing. So you got great guys like Jack Hibbs, Charlie Kirk, John MacArthur. It's great when you get down to just a handful of names. I'm going to give you like a little dose of this great combination, Jack Hibbs and Charlie Kirk. Let's take a look at him here. While we're at it, come on, here we go. Ready, launch.
And I actually think it's healthy, and I think it's helpful. And then we can build up from there. And kind of what were the contributing factors? Because my goodness, it was hard to watch yesterday. It was.
This is right after the inauguration.
A lot of people here in this church did their part. I can't say that for every church across the country, quite honestly, but this church did their part. This church registered voters.
This guy's got a growing church. Look at that. That church,
was
like,
aware, was alert, was
having a
informed,
move.
hosted the right gatherings. And you'll be blessed by that. You will. And you made an impact in this community, and yes, even the state. We'll talk about that. But yeah, we lost the Georgia runoffs, the Capitol tragedy, the NRA declared bankruptcy. President Trump has access to no social media at all whatsoever. They took him off of TikTok. I mean, what did they think he was going to do on TikTok?
TikTok.
Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Really, in a stunning turn of events, I would have loved to have seen President Trump transition to TikTok when all other options were exhausted. The very company he was trying to kick out of the country. It's felt as if the hits have just kept coming. And yet, I refuse to do anything but be committed to good cheer, positivity, and optimism. And some people have been, Charlie, are you delirious? Like, no, I understand completely what's going on in our country.
Okay, listen to this.
But let's also take a step back and ask ourselves the question, Jack. Is it as bad as it feels? And the answer is no. The Democrats do not have 60 seats in the United States Senate. They have 50. A couple of them are going to be up in 2022 in very tough races in Arizona and Georgia. They have one blue dog Democrat, Joe Manchin. Nancy Pelosi did not get 244 seats in the House of Representatives. She only enjoys a 7-seat majority at most on certain days, depending on who shows up. And the incoming administration has pledged and promised unity. And they were not, and we'll get to exactly what they mean by unity, because it's actually something very specific. Yeah. And it's important that we all know, because it's not the unity that you might think, because their definition of unity is the absence of opposition. That's what they think of as unity. But they have no mandate to govern with a far left-wing agenda. The only reason...
No mandate to govern.
Reasons that they got it even from a policy perspective was that I am not the other guy. And of course there's all the, let's say, shenanigans and tomfoolery and gamesmanship, which we can dive into here, that obviously played a role in all of that. Not to mention the fact that social media was a completely corrupted enterprise throughout the entire election, where you could not even talk about Joe Biden's son without losing your Twitter account in the month of October. They do not have a mandate to govern with the iron fist that they're preparing to govern with. They barely control our government, barely. But they're acting as if that they have 66-seat majorities. And so we also need to take a step back and say, in a year where we were supposed to get blown out of the U.S. Senate, I mean, lose seats that we've never lost before. We advanced in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Listen to this.
We won seats here in California, and you guys deserve credit for that.
They did it in California.
Michelle Steele, Mike Garcia.
Daryl Issa.
4 total flips, right, Jess?
Issa, yes.
We flipped 3 state legislatures and 1 governors across the country, and
Come on.
lost 0 state legislatures. We have the most diverse and youngest group of Republicans probably ever, including the youngest ever representative, Madison Cawthorn.
Great show, by the way.
Thank you.
How old is he? 24?
He's 25.
25.
He is as young as you can be to be a U.S. congressman.
Have you guys heard him speak? Yeah.
Madison Cawthorn, awesome.
In a wheelchair.
We have Elvira Salazar, who speaks fluent Spanish, who won in a Democrat seat in downtown Miami, Florida, Jack. We have Burgess Owens, former NFL football player, black American from Utah. We have Byron Douglas. We have some amazing success stories happening. Florida used to be something called a battleground state. Now we might as well call it Alabama. I mean, it is like we win by 400,000 votes. Yeah. It's not even
Aren't
close.
we all moving to Florida shortly?
I have a mixed theory on that, because I'm totally supportive of us maxing out the battleground states, but don't forsake the battle in front of you. So I kind of have
if there's any good people out there, California is a great place to move to now. I mean it. Things are turning around. It happened in this last election.
No, it's true.
We'll talk about it later. But I think California is going to surprise people.
I completely agree.
All right, I want you to catch that. Jack Hibbs, Charlie Kirk, and what they're doing is they're starting to work with pastors and churches, opening up chapters of Turning Point. I'm telling you something, get your head really clear right now. I was listening to on a call with Lee Strobel today, who is strong in Christian apologetics. He says like 30 to 40% or 40, 50% of your young people, when they leave home, they lose their faith because they're not really grounded in confidence on what they believe. And Lee Strobel says that, he makes the argument that the New Testament is entirely reliable as inspired, and he makes apologetic arguments in defense of it. And then he goes on to teach apologetics so that millennials can own their faith, see that Christianity is totally compatible with science and, in fact, with all knowledge, and that the salvation message or the gospel is the only way in which a life is transformed. Evangelism is happening with his ministry because apologetics, millennials are asking questions. You ever notice that? They're like, that's why they go to Jordan Peterson or Sam Harris, and they're just not sold on what they were told. And they're also kind of turned up by what they perceive to be partisan, like political. So there's a point where the apologetics is really important for young people. The next thing I want to say is there are individuals like Bob Vanderplatz in Iowa who are doing an extraordinary job with 2,100 churches, 2,300 ministers in working and networking leaders with local government, the state legislators, the Congress, the Senate, city council, with mayors. In other words, if you can get the leaders in the ministry to be like the Nathans, who go alongside the Davids. This is the Zerubbabel with Joshua. This is the Nehemiah with Ezra. This is what I've been talking about and what I wrote about. If we can get our spiritual leaders to develop relationships with those that are in government, like Paul with the centurions that were keeping him captive, actually. He had a tremendous impact on the centurions, and the centurions saved his life. So it's being able to mobilize our churches so that they're effectively relationally engaged politically, raising up the next generation in apologetics, seeing these, we're watching now as the persecution, the guns are starting to adjust over there on the absolute idiotic absurdity of trying to label 75 million peacekeeping, tax-paying, conservative-praying, or God-fearing Americans as national terrorists or something. The left has completely overplayed its hand. Now, what you're going to see happen with the Biden administration is that they have no mandate. You just heard about the fact that they didn't pick up a single state legislator. Remember this, the Founding Fathers saw the states as the most important thing. Uniting them was their challenge, but they never really wanted to see the federal government become like England's king that ruled over the colonies. That was the reason why they rebelled. They did not want a centralized monarchy controlling them. They wanted independence. Now, the states, the founders were absolutely right. So we have to focus again on the states because they are the firewall to federal overreach. And since Biden obviously did not get a mandate with the election, and we could argue easily and make the proofs pretty comprehensively about how states they changed the legislative process, the ballot process, the verification process at the last minute, months before the election, and that all along there was a setup going on. Then everybody knew that the ballots was going to be a problem. It was going to create a massive opportunity for voter fraud. But so what I can only do is, when I came to the conclusion, when I stopped praying as we fought and fasted and prayed, right up to the bitter end, right up to January 6th, when I was in Washington watching that suspicious scenario developing there at the Capitol, I came to the conclusion, the Lord at any point could expose software if software is corrupt. He could flip. I was looking for just Pennsylvania and Wisconsin or Arizona. They were down to these leads were shrinking, 10,000. They were shrinking. The more investigation, the more they were shrinking. But I came to the conclusion, as you had to, the Lord chose not to. After all the praying for a Red Sea moment and looking to see how God was going to do, the Lord chose not to. This is the sober realization. And that means that we have to go back. We have to go back and rethink. Not Trump's presidency. I believe that Donald Trump was the gift that God gave us. And I think that Mario Murillo wrote a great article. That's why I posted it yesterday. And I said this in the first election. My big fear was that we would only smite the arrows. Elisha laid his hands upon a king and said, open the window, fire your arrows, now smite the arrows on the ground. And the king goes boom, boom, boom. And the prophet was furious. He said, 3 times? That's all the resolve you have for a window of breakthrough? God gives you Donald Trump. He gives you Congress, the Senate, gives us courts and gives us the executive branch. Donald Trump could not get the wall because you watch how Democrats govern when they have alignment. They take every inch they can get. When Republicans have alignment, they do nothing. That's the reason. That's just telling you that you're going to watch now that immediately it's going to be, oh, we're going to like legalize 20 million illegal immigrants. Oh, we're going to open up the wall. We're going to have nations flooding in. Oh, we're going to put the Green New Deal into place. Oh, we're going to go with the Paris Climate Accord. Oh, we're going to stop the Keystone Pipeline. And the amazing thing is none of this is popular with America. And so Americans are basically going, whoa, whoa, whoa. Remember this, even though you may not agree that Biden got those electoral votes, it was still close enough for Jazz, still close enough so that half of America would vote for these cats. So I think God, honestly, I think God is saying what he did with the children of Israel. He said to them, they wanted they wanted quail. They complained because they didn't have quail. They wanted quail. The Lord said, great, I'm going to give them quail till it comes out of their nostrils, because they weren't happy with the diet God gave them. They weren't happy with the solution God gave. Weren't happy with the prosperity, freedom, and global strength God gave them. So since they weren't happy, I'll give them what they want. The Bible says he gave them what they wanted, but he sent leanness to their souls, meaning I think America is going to get what it voted for. Half of America likes this. Like I just got done telling you, the business mountain likes it, the media mountain likes it, academia and Hollywood likes it. Government likes it. A whole bunch of rich cat liberals like it. So now they're going to get a taste of what socialism tastes like. And I think that, I hate to say it, but if it's severe enough and bad enough, it could be mercifully short enough so that by midterms, remember, midterms 2022, the nation can send its convulsion, its response back. Traditionally, the opposite party it grows in Congress. So if you're a Republican, you lose seats in Congress, in the House. If you're a Democrat, you lose seats. So it's very, very likely that mandate is going to be very unliked by what's going on in America. I think the Christians are going to have to wake up, providing these other Christians who are now saying, don't get politically engaged. I guess we've learned our lesson, which is the stupidest thing you could possibly say. No, you haven't. Don't quit, and you haven't learned your lesson. If anything, you recognize that we're going to have to repent deeper, and we're going to have to go deeper than in this thing in God than we have before. But we're certainly not going to give up the nation, because the whole world, I don't know if you know this, they have like 700 in Boko Haram essentially has taken over the government in Uganda, to a degree where you had like 700 Christians martyred last month. Well, you don't hear this in the news because people could care less about the martyrdom of your brothers and sisters. But I'm telling you, the whole world, Taiwan is sitting there with China flying over it right now to take it. Your brothers and sisters are in those places. The world was praying for Trump. And that's why I have no sympathy for these Christian preachers that are, well, now we're going to have to learn. We got to be less partisan. I don't think it's a partisan issue when it comes to babies dying. I don't think it's a partisan issue when it comes to robbing your children of the inheritance and making them slaves to foreign nations and foreign debt. I think you have a right to be concerned when your freedom of speech is threatened and your business is cut off because your economic life for your family and independence is slaughtered because you don't toe the line for the tech company. And no, I think there's different fish to fry than the obsession with political Christians right now. I think that we're going to have to all make a choice and either bow the knee to Baal or stand upright. And having done all, stand. In the meantime, I believe that God is sending a message to America that we've been weighed in the balance and found lacking. That's the whole church, not the prophets. That's why I'm totally irritated with the critics of the prophets right now, because they're not recognizing the whole church has been weighed and found wanting. But I'll tell you what these guys will say. Well, they don't even believe Trump should be president anyway, so they're not even political. So they're just basically, it's like Jesus said, certain people sit in Moses' seat, so listen to what they say when they teach the Bible. But beyond that, don't listen to them on what's going on in the world around you, because they just don't understand. They don't understand what's happening in America, even though they'll tell me they do. They don't, because this is a dangerous time for the church to not go deeper and in its walk with God, in its repentance. I think we got to go to deliverance. Be honest with you. I think, it's like you're going to put the shovel in. How will we know that we've really gotten where we got to go? How will we know when we've repented? How will we know when we've really gotten into the level we've got to go? It's not going to be because we're less clear-headed and outspoken on right and wrong, and even if it's not politically correct. It'll be when the shovel goes dink. You ever hear a shovel hit a rock? Dink. That's the deliverance ministry. I really believe there's a lot of mental illness. There's a lot of depression, a lot of fear that'll be multiplied. We already had the COVID. We already had the summer riots. Then we already have this apocalyptic anxiety, this harbinger thing. Oh my God, if Trump doesn't win, what will happen? And now the thing we feared has come upon us. And somehow I think the Lord is saying, keep digging. Keep digging. Because I don't believe this America is under judgment. I believe it's under discipline. You know the difference between judgment and discipline? One destroys you. The other one educates you. I think we're getting educated, and I think the church itself is getting educated. It's kind of like, we did our last minute praying and fasting and Zoom calls to get Trump. Oh my God, God help us. We should have been doing that in day one. Instead, we let the guy sit over there by himself, and we got a whole bunch of critics. So I think that we should have been in an earnest position contending for America for the last 4 years. The arrows needed to go 6, 7, 8 times, not 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. And here's the other thing. You can't cram for final exams in the kingdom. You can do that in college, but you can't cram for a harvest. Let's say you've neglected your health. You can't suddenly cram health. Oh my God, I'm 300 pounds. I'm going on and had a heart attack. Well, you know what? Yeah, you got to change your lifestyle, but you just can't cram health the last 30 days and undo 30 years. You can't cram affection on a spouse and undo 30 years of abuse, and you can't cram a harvest. So we're going to have to sow patiently to ourselves and break up the fallow ground. I know that makes sense to you guys. You guys are smart. 3,600 of you sitting here at the midnight hour. The smartest, most educated, spiritually sharp group out there in the cyber cosmos. That's who you are. And I think if you take all this together that I said tonight, everything that I said, and that is that we have to go back and say God could have intervened. He didn't. It's a discipline, not a judgment. But we need to kind of get online now with what the Lord is saying. I don't think supporting Donald Trump was wrong. I think we didn't support sufficiently. I think we failed our moment in history. And I don't go with any of the prophets that say, well, I think Trump should have repented, or Trump should have done this, or Trump should have. You can't do that. Don't do that. Don't blame the person who didn't get out of the wheelchair for their lack of faith when you're trying to pull them out. That's on you. You're the miracle guy. So the reality is we got to fight at the state level more than ever before. You have to be engaged. Well, I'm just going to get involved. I'm giving up, Lance. I'm tired. Oh, that's a useless summer soldier. That's a chocolate soldier that melts in the heat of battle. You got to get more involved for your children's sake, for your family's sake, for the sake of the nations. You have to get involved locally, because you see, like the founding fathers do, your states, most of the states, legislators are actually moving in a conservative direction. What we found out about them is they're weak and wimpy, because they rode Trump's coattails and got your votes, but they're trying to, they're kind of like bunny rabbits for their donors and the people they think got them elected. So that's why they suddenly got this hot flash when all of us were calling them and saying, you better examine those electors. You better be standing up for my vote. It's like, oh my God, there's people actually that like Trump. Now, these guys are political, man. They're realtors and lawyers, and they want to be a future congressman maybe, and they're basically doing this as a career move. They had no idea they were going to get into the heat they were in this election cycle till you called them and started contacting them. So there, we got to tighten that up. We have to get engagement at a state and local level. We have to be able to allow the bad policies, Paris Climate Accord and everything. We got to Let people know, like Churchill told everyone what Hitler was going to do and where he was going to go, so that when it happened, they said, this guy, he sounded fanatical, but he was right. These policies are not good. And, the trans policies that are coming in, here's the main point. The new administration has sketched out a massive blanket amnesty proposal. They're actually gonna undo things that Trump did that the American people didn't want. Here's the funny thing. The average American voter, and this is true at a visceral kind of like intuitive level, the average American who didn't vote for Trump really wasn't interested in having massive Hispanic unemployment restored or black unemployment restored. They liked the massive black employment and Hispanic employment. And they liked having no caravans of people coming over the border. They liked the fact that we had industry and manufacturing that was beginning to get on its feet. And so COVID threw everyone off with the masks and all what's going on. But the truth of the matter is, nobody really wanted to see us about the Middle East. They like the fact that these countries are making peace deals with Israel. And now we're going back to, you won't believe it, but the Biden administration is saying everyone in the Middle East is so happy we're getting back there. So what are they going to do? Reactivate Iran and then tear apart the peace in the Middle East? I'm telling you something. The average person in America, it's in a weird way. If it gets bad, there's a lesson and there's an opportunity to reset in 2022. But America will not be reset unless the shovel goes dink. And I think that's going to mean deliverance is going to have to come back into the church. I'm not worried about people falling away because they're going to lose confidence in the prophetic. No, that'll never happen. People are going to still love the supernatural. And I think we have to go further in the supernatural. I think we have to go to the deliverance. Because once you get to deliverance, you get to the miracle ministry. Because miracles and deliverance, no man casting out a devil in my name, no man who performs a miracle lightly in my name can speak evil of me, Jesus said. And this he spoke of someone who was casting out devils in his name, where Jesus equates casting out devils with a miracle. So it's a miracle ministry starts. So you want to work, we've got a lot of healing and falling down and that stuff. The miracles is what we're looking for. That's when deliverance, when the shovel goes dink, ding, you'll see the healings and the miracles. Well, I'm going to have Mara Murillo on shortly. I'm going to hop off the air right now, let you guys get on with your day. Just want to encourage you. I'm going to have Mara Murillo because he's doing some great stuff out in California. He's seeing people that want America back and that are coming to salvation, and miracles and healings are happening. And I believe if you share this, if you want to like and subscribe, if you're on YouTube, share this while I'm still on, while I'm still available on these social media platforms. And we're going to be doing some interesting stuff coming up with programming, because I want to be able to get these other interesting cats on that you'll want to hear from, that are experts in these fields I'm talking about. So we'll get Charlie Kirk on. We'll get Jack Hibbs on. We'll get Eric Metaxas on. We're going to be able to get some folks on. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the contrast, because the anointing is intensifying. Keep digging. Keep pressing in, because this isn't, like I said, America is not under judgment. It's a discipline, and it's a discipline that I think is meant to preserve the nation rather than destroy it. And that's the reason why we are where we are. And it's not as bad as it feels. And you just listen to Charlie give you the reason why. We didn't, the left didn't get that big margin in the Senate. They don't have that margin in Congress. We still have the advantage of the Supreme Court. And those freedom of religion cases that are coming up, like the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, that's taking on Cheon's church and trying to put that pastor in jail and charge every church member $1,000 to go to church. I can't believe the California courts are trying to pull that off. So it's going to the Supreme Court. And you guys aren't hearing enough about this. But those are the issues we should be watching, because we've never imagined an era where pastors, good pastors, great pastors that are friends of yours, could be threatened with jail and their church members with fines simply for going to church. So we're watching these things. I believe God is kind of like refining. The heat's up, but it's to get the impurities out. It's not to boil over in destruction. And I think you guys all bear witness with me on that. If it was different, we'd have a different feeling. But it's kind of like, it's like something tense, but God is with us in the storm. And he's doing something because he won't be manipulated by our prayers or prophecies. He's going to do what he wants. And the sovereign fear of the Lord, I think, is coming back. Talk to you. Share this with your friends, will you please? I read your comments. I'll be looking at them right now. Talk to you later. And by the way, thanks for being with me tonight.